everybody. Welcome to our Sunday talk show, The World This Week. The mystery is less of a mystery this week. The plane crashed into the ocean, no survivors, no big conspiracies.
Flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
The Obamas around the world. The president tries to reassure Europe after Ukraine. The First Lady was in China. In Turkey, Prime Minister Erdogan is now shutting down YouTube. He wants only one voice. Riots on the streets of Madrid. It's the economy. And in Paris today, the second round, one of two ladies will become the next mayor. These are some of the issues we'll touch upon this Sunday. It's a crucial week for the Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations. The Israeli government is very pessimistic and it is reluctant to move forward with the release of more Palestinian prisoners, which is scheduled for this week. With us from Ramallah in the West Bank is Dimitri Diliani, who is the member of the Fatah Revolutionary Council. Hello, Mr. Diliani.
How are you?
Okay. Well, you tell us, please, are you the Palestinians rejecting the Kerry proposal?
Well, there hasn't been anything in writing that was submitted to the Palestinian leadership. So officially, there is nothing to accept or reject. But looking back at the 8 months of the so-called negotiations, things do not look good, and they do not look like the Israeli government has the will to move forward with the process. I'll give you some numbers to give you an idea how we look at the negotiations and the results of negotiations in Palestine. Well, 60 Palestinians were killed through extrajudicial operations of the Israeli army, 941 injured. As far as settlement building, the process began for 10,509 settler housing units. At the same time, 146 Palestinian homes and properties were destroyed by the
Mr. Diliani, you are going back to the blame game, and I really want to ask you, what's the positive side, if there's any? What do the Palestinians agree to accept in these negotiations? Where is the yes?
The yes lies in, as I believe, and I'm not a decision maker, but the general feeling, if we have a total freeze of illegal settlement building in the West Bank, including, of course, East Jerusalem, and the freeing of a number of prisoners, including Marwan Barghouti and Saadat and others.
So I'm going to ask you, but Mr. Diliani, you're saying yes to Israeli gestures, but I'm asking you, what is the Palestinian side ready to agree for? What about the Jewish state? Why is Abbas not willing to say that Israel is a Jewish state? Even in Israel, you know, many people think that this is really insignificant, including even President Peres.
Well, because by me recognizing, or us recognizing this state of Israel, we are buying, we are believing, we are admitting to the narrative of the Zionist movement. This narrative takes apart everything that we believe in as a national identity. In other words, the Israeli narrative, or the Zionist narrative, for me as a Christian, for example, does not include Jesus being here, because Judaism doesn't believe in Jesus. In other words, if I recognize Israel as a Jewish state, I'm believing your narrative, and I'm denouncing my own religion. Other parts of our heritage, our culture, our national identity is so conflicting with the Zionist narrative and our recognition of a Jewish state. That means we are erasing all that. If we are to choose between a Palestinian state and erasing our identity, most likely, well, for sure, we're going to pick to keep our identity, our national identity, who we are as people. That is more important than a state.
Mr. Diliani, I really tried to get something positive out of you, but you're blaming the Israeli government, and we've been hearing their side of the story here for a long time as well. And I appreciate your comments this morning. Thank you very much in our Ramallah studio. And with me here in the studio, Barbara Opal-Rome, Israel Bureau Chief of Defense News. Very positive atmosphere here in the Middle East. Is the process dead?
It's not yet dead. It's on life support. And the critical problem is that even Israelis are very hard-pressed to find a positive note to say. The deal is, the actual focus on is who will be to blame for the collapse of the process. And something very important that is going on behind the scenes in the Israeli military and the defense establishment is there's already very serious planning going on for what happens when the talks actually collapse. What happens when the Palestinians do no longer have this hope on their political horizon? Will they again embrace armed resistance?
So, Barbara, let's move to Europe for a couple of minutes. Some European perspective about the United States, Russia, and Ukraine. President Obama ended his European tour in Italy this week. We are joined by Sivan Kotler in Rome. Sivan, how is Obama perceived, regarded in Italy after Ukraine?
With a mixed feeling. The main political and institutional argument were discussed with Giorgio Napolitano, the president of Italy, which is an old friend of the American president. A brief statement was made about the crisis in Ukraine during the press conference between Matteo Renzi, the Italian Prime Minister, and Barack Obama. The relationship between Italy and the United States were and still is a very good relationship, and it was expressed by the usual mutual declaration. There was Matteo Renzi that told that he feels like Obama's follower, while Obama was telling to the press that he's very inspired by the spirit of the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. The Italian newspaper, although dedicated space to what they called the decline of the empire, the American empire, thinking maybe about the decline of another empire, the Roman one.
Thank you very much, Sivan, in Rome. Barbara here in the studio, the decline of the empire.
That's what we've been hearing, and it is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, and quite frankly, the Republicans in Washington are allowing this and encouraging this to happen. We heard about the vacuum and the disengagement, and then it became weakness, so feebleness, weariness, and in fact, attempts by Obama in Brussels last week were a little bit too late. Not enough. He's reaching out to Europe to have them assume their leadership role with not a real concrete agenda to supplement this hand-wringing and feeling of powerlessness vis-a-vis Putin, if it's involving Ukraine, vis-a-vis the Syrian civil war and what to do about arming the rebels. It's very despondent, and it seems to be a redo of the Cold War.
And ratings plummeted home, his ratings, Obama's ratings. Is this going to be his legacy?
Obamacare is one of the big legacies on the domestic scale. And in fact, this vacuum that he's leaving not only in the Middle East, but now with Europe, the issue of sanctions, the use of soft power and smart power, which he so wanted to have as his legacy, is so very much in question, but I wouldn't write him off, because we still do have time. The sanctions do have some type of a capability, and we'll see. You know, the foreign ministers of NATO are meeting this week in Brussels, and sanctions bills and packages are coming along. And let's just hope that Putin is playing his hand, has maybe played his hand, and that Obama, with some renewed solidarity and support from the European allies, can come up with some kind of a tangible plan.
One thing is for sure, from here in the Middle East, there's not going to be much hope for Obama, probably.
Oh, unfortunately, I agree with you completely, Jacob.
Barbara, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. AIDS is still very much widespread in Africa, far away from the world's attention.
A group of Israeli doctors came back this week from a remote island in Uganda. I-24 News' Tammy Arhel was with them, and now she's here with us. Hello, Tammy.
Hi, Jacob.
What was the mission, and who was there with you?
With me were Professor Danny Engelhard, manager of Art, Joy, Love project. With him, a medical clown, two young doctors that came with their one-year-old baby, and everyone there is on a voluntary basis with the goal of fighting the AIDS virus.
Now, how difficult was it there?
On Busi Island, between 16 and 18% of the residents are sick with or carriers of the HIV virus. The project is led by Professor Engelhard, who combined medical treatment with medical clowns and Israeli volunteers. Exactly a year ago, the Israeli team helped the local build a medical center, and we can already see improvement in the status of the sick and the rise in awareness.
Now, it must be very hard just to function there, let alone the mental difficulties. How did you cope with this?
Definitely it's not easy. The conditions are harsh. There is no hot water. Electricity is only solar, and flying insects are all around. But the difficulty is mainly emotional. Because of this virus, thousands are orphaned. We visited one of the orphan shelters, and we heard very troubling stories.
Yeah. What can be done today? Can we do more today to fight HIV?
What the Israeli medical team is doing in orphanage in Ethiopia and Uganda is copying the existing model in the Hadassah AIDS Center by treating children medically and psychologically. The key words with HIV are prevention and awareness. We've seen how the local medical teams are circumcising adults to minimizing the spread of the virus. The Israeli doctor also go to island close by where percentage of AIDS is very high, simply to convince the residents and especially pregnant women to come get checked.
And how was their reaction around you?
Everyone there is in love with the Israelis. They see the doctors and volunteers as real lifesavers, and sarcasm aside, that's exactly what they're doing.
Tammy Arhel, I-24 News, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacob.
Keren Elazary is an Israeli tech expert. She calls herself an ex-hacker, and now she's a cybersecurity expert, like most of them. We caught up with her in New York after a TED lecture in Vancouver, Canada. Hello, Keren, in New York.
Hello, it's great to be on the line with you, Jacob. How are you doing today?
Great to be with you, great. Well, first of all, tell us, how was the performance in front of the biggest names in technology?
So last week I had the honor and the privilege of presenting at TED. It was the 30th anniversary of the TED conference, so it was a pretty big deal with a lot of industry leaders, as you said. The Google founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page was there, Bill Gates, some high-profile officials from Twitter, from Facebook, from other companies were there as well. And I had the very unique pleasure of speaking directly before the deputy director of the NSA. So that was a pretty special occasion as well, as he was presenting over video to the TED audience at that time too.
So you spoke to the NSA as a hacker to a hacker.
Almost, yes, but their perspective was a bit different, I have to say, because what I'm talking about is how hackers have this unique role, almost as the immune system for the information age, discovering those hidden bugs and technologies that we use every day, and you're not as aware of how dangerous and risky they can be. But the NSA guys were there to talk about the importance of their global surveillance systems, and I think it's a very different way to use the power of hacking, which, you know, it's a different way that the NSA utilizes hacking in a different way to what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But now you're with the good guys, right?
Yeah, I would say that. I'm a security researcher and an analyst, and I had a very unique privilege when I joined the Israeli army. We don't often think about it as an equalizing place, but for me as a woman to get to work on these technologies with the military was a fantastic opportunity to use these powers for good and for productive means, and I'm very happy that I had that chance.
So you're in the position to tell us really how exposed we are these days.
That's right, Jacob. We don't quite realize it, but in fact, in the 21st century, I believe the concept of privacy is, you know, it's vintage. It's going to be a thing of the past. We already use so many technologies every day. Some of them, you know, clever services offered to us for free that we enjoy using. But what we're giving up in return is our privacy. And this is just the way things are. And for our children and our children's children, this will be the reality. They will no longer remember an age where we didn't have the internet or when sharing your personal life online was considered strange or weird.
Yeah.
Today, it is people that do not share that are considered strange or weird.
Karen Elazary in New York, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Pleasure to be with you on the show.
And this has been The World This Week. We'll see you here next Sunday. Have a good week.